Ama.
Herbert W. Armstrong versus Jack Van Impe. Who was right? Part 4. 10 Horns of the Beast. In this video, we are focusing on the 10 horns of the beast of Revelation 17. And we will get into great detail about how Jack Van Impe teaches on the 10 horns, compared to the last video on how Herbert Armstrong taught on the horns. Revelation 17, we will start by reading verses 1 through 12. Verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore, that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth...
She's the village bicycle. Everyone's had a ride.
Woman denotes a church. This church isn't just a church, it's a whore. And that's in the Bible. So this is a whore of a church. Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Drunk on false doctrine. Verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now we've explained in the last video how the beast of Revelation 13 with 10 horns is not the same beast as the one in Revelation 17. Just look at the description of it. This beast the whore rides in Revelation 17 is scarlet color, compared to the beast in Revelation 13, where it looked like a lion, a bear, a leopard, and then Daniel's 4th beast, the Roman Empire. Because again, the beast this woman rides in chapter 17 is composed of the final 7 horns that sprout out of the Roman territory. Verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And if you study Daniel chapter, when Roman emperors lavished the false church of Rome and built her up, this was the God their fathers didn't know, that they gave gold and precious stones and pearls. King of the North also being the Roman Empire. We won't get into Daniel in this part, but Daniel is definitely on the way. Verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And again, notice how the horns are mentioned last, because only the 7th and final head has all the horns. Verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. Well, there's a lot in that first part of the verse. Let's read that again. The beast that thou sawest was indicates heads 1 through 5 that ruled during the 1,260 years the healed beast continued from Justinian to Napoleon. And so the 5 was, it says, and the 6th one is not. It is not because on the surface, it isn't on the surface. It went underground. Remember, after World War II, this beast just went underground. It was not destroyed like the 4 before it. And now the 7th head in verse 8 says, And the seventh head shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. If you look up that Greek word, it's abusos or abyss. It literally means the underground, and that's where the Holy Roman Empire went after the World War II. So it said, the beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Perdition means destruction, and recall the Antichrist is called the son of perdition in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The only other man called son of perdition in the scripture was the betrayer, Judas Iscariot, and that doesn't mean that Judas is the Antichrist. Satan possessed Judas, and Judas betrayed Jesus, and Satan also possesses this king to come, the king of the north, this man of sin, as he rules in this man's body for 3.5 years when he heals the beast's deadly wound. Again, verse 8 from the beginning. There's a lot in this verse. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Shall ascend is future tense because it hasn't happened yet. The seventh head has not come to fruition yet. But it will. All the signs are there. It says, and the beast will go into perdition or destruction, because there's no eighth head of the Holy Roman Empire. Thank God. After this next and final one, it's over. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. Verse 9, and here is the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now for quite a while, individuals have called Rome the city on 7 hills, and it identifies that because that's actually certain people try to poo-poo that, claiming Rome's actually on 9 hills, not 7, but it's not even referring mainly to literal hills Rome is built on. 7 mountains. It says the 7 heads of this beast the woman rides are 7 mountains. A mountain is a symbol for a kingdom, because remember, it's the 7 final kingdoms that sprout out of Rome. But with any mountain range, there's peaks and there's valleys. So obviously the beast right now is in the valley, but is coming to fruition with the final mountain peak composed of 10 nations led by this resurrected political leader who is Satan in the flesh, the son of perdition. So the term, again, son of perdition, means satanic possession, not just influence. Satan just straight up possessed you. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. Okay, so remember, the 5 fallen were in the 1,260 years the healed beast continued, from 554 AD to 1814. 1 is, that was the 6th head from 1870 to 1945. But you'll claim, well, World War II's done. Yes, but see, this 6th head was never destroyed. It went underground into the abusos, the Greek abyss, the bottomless pit. And that's the wording the Bible says where this beast comes out of. So the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So again, the 7 mountains are the 7 kingdoms that the false church of Rome controls until the second coming of Christ after the healing of the deadly wound of the Roman Empire. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. You see, the final head only lasts for 1,260 days. Verse 11, and the beast that was, and is not, he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So let me explain this verse. Go back to Daniel's 4 beasts, where they morphed together to see the super beast John seen in Revelation chapter 13. So the 7th head, because remember, Greece has 4 heads. The lion has 1 head, the bear has 1 head, but the leopard, again, has 4 heads, so that brings us up to 6 heads total. And then the seventh head is the Roman head with the 10 horns. So see, the beast the woman rides is composed of the last 7 horns of the beast in Revelation 13. Of that seventh head, the Roman head. See, so this beast, he is of the 7th head, because it's the Roman head, it's a Roman kingdom, but it's a different system. It's an 8th system, an 8th head, if you will, because there's a false church guiding the 8th system. So it's the 8th system is the 7th system, the Roman system, now religified and glorified. That's a great way of putting it. All right, so he's of the 7 and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. See, so it's 10 kingdoms united under the Antichrist, and obviously it would include the leaders of those 10 nations, the 10 kings. Because again, king and kingdom synonymous with one another. That's a theme constantly, consistently throughout the Bible, that a king represents the kingdom he rules over. So it says the 10 horns are 10 kings that have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Because that's when and it's not a literal hour, we know it to be exactly 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, or times, and half a time. So the 1 hour with the beast. Recall Revelation 3:10, where Jesus said he would keep his believers, his followers, disciples, from the hour that would come upon all the world to test those who dwell on the earth. So that leads us into now how Mr. Van Impe teaches the 10 horns, because the way Van Impe teaches the 10 horns, they are the 10 nations that revived the final empire. So 1945 is when the 6th head of the Holy Roman Empire went underground officially. So 2 years later in 1947 are when these 3 horns, the first 3 horns, came together, commonly called Benelux. It is number 1, Luxembourg, number 2 is Belgium, and number 3 was the Netherlands. Again, that was 1947. Then 10 years later in 1957, France, Italy, and Germany, the one who started World War II, World War I, and the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, they all joined, and they signed. This group that joined in 57 were called the Club of Rome, and they signed the Treaty of Rome. So 1973, that's when the 3 nations joined who will be uprooted, that being Britain, Ireland, and Denmark. Because remember, in the last part, the little horn later didn't specify it uprooted the first 3 horns, because it don't. In Van Impe's teaching, he uproots these nations that joined in 1973. How do I know this? Because right in front of me, I have Jack Van Impe's book, Revelation Revealed at Last, and notice this point. He says, Ireland and Denmark, present common market members, were never part of the old Roman Empire. This apparent problem, however, is quickly resolved when one considers the information presented in Daniel 7. We discover here that following the establishment of a 10-nation confederacy, this world leader arises, takes control, and ousts 3 nations. But he didn't specify the 3rd nation, but thankfully Herbert Armstrong did specify the 3rd nation, because he plainly said in Mystery of the Ages, Britain will not be in that 10-nation confederation at the end of time. 1981, number 10 joined Greece. 1986, the year Mr. Armstrong died, Spain and Portugal joined. But remember, they got to grow to 13. And finally, in 1995, Austria joined to form 13. So now we can have 3 uprooted and have 10 remaining at the end. And Austria is where the crown jewels of the Holy Roman Empire are housed. We will teach more on the Holy Roman Empire, more on the crown jewels, and we'll teach you the things they should have taught you in high school. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more parts of Herbert W. Armstrong versus Jack Van Impe. Who was right?